Fred MacMurray's legacy is cemented in the hearts of millions of viewers who adored his role as the wholesome, lovable father on the classic TV series My Three Sons. Audiences knew him as the epitome of the perfect family man, the sweet dad who seemed to balance his career and home life with grace. His charm, wit, and on-screen presence made him a household name, and for many, he was the ideal, comforting father figure. Yet, behind the scenes, the man behind the gentle father figure was a far cry from the perfect patriarch that TV audiences adored. In fact, Fred MacMurray's real-life persona was far from the image he projected on screen. His career was riddled with controversy, and even some of the most famous figures in Hollywood found it difficult to work with him. The truth about Fred MacMurray, hidden for decades, is one that challenges the image of the iconic star. Early life. A musical start in the Midwest. Fred MacMurray's story begins far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Born on August 30, 1908, in Kankakee, Illinois, Fred's birth was a happenstance, a serendipitous moment that would shape the man he would become. His father, Frederick MacMurray, was a concert violinist who happened to be performing in the small town of Kankakee when Fred's mother, Melita, unexpectedly went into labor. While Fred was born in Illinois, the family's roots lay in Wisconsin, where both of Fred's parents had grown up. It was in Wisconsin that Fred would eventually grow up, and his connection to the Midwest would influence the simple, grounded image he would later project on screen. When Fred was just 2 years old, the MacMurray family relocated to Madison, Wisconsin, where Fred would spend his formative years. Despite the challenges he would face in his early life, Fred's childhood was marked by a passion for music, an art form that would continue to play a significant role in his life for many years. His father, a talented musician, introduced Fred to the world of classical music, and by the age of 5, Fred was learning to play the violin. However, his early life was not without hardship. Fred's parents separated when he was still very young, and he moved with his mother to Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, a small town with a deep sense of community. Beaver Dam left a lasting impression on Fred, and as he grew older, he often reminisced about his time there. His hometown even found its way into some of his films, such as Pardon My Past, where his character dreams of starting a mink farm in Beaver Dam. This connection to his roots would remain a significant part of Fred's identity, even as he became a household name in Hollywood. Despite financial struggles, Fred's mother worked tirelessly to support her son, instilling in him a sense of determination and resilience that would serve him well in the years to come. Academic excellence and athleticism. Fred was not only musically inclined, but also excelled in academics and athletics. A bright student, he was known for his work ethic and his competitive spirit. At Beaver Dam High School, Fred earned 10 varsity letters, a testament to his skill and dedication in sports. His athletic prowess, combined with his academic achievements, made him a standout student. He graduated high school at the age of 16, demonstrating both his intelligence and his ambition. It was clear from an early age that Fred had a drive to succeed, and he was willing to put in the work to achieve his goals. Despite his academic and athletic success, Fred's love for music remained a constant in his life. He played in a local band and used the money he earned working at a pea canning factory to buy a saxophone. His dedication to music led him to form his first band, the Max Melody Boys, with which he performed locally. Even though Fred's talent as a musician was undeniable, he often struggled with stage fright, a challenge that would plague him throughout his career. The fear of performing in front of an audience was something that Fred never fully overcame, but he pushed through it in pursuit of his dreams. The move to Hollywood. A new beginning. Fred's journey to Hollywood was not a straightforward one. After graduating from high school, Fred attended Carroll College in Wisconsin on a scholarship for sports. He continued to balance his studies with his love for music, performing in various bands to make extra money. But Fred harbored bigger dreams. In the late 1920s, he decided to leave Wisconsin behind and head to Hollywood in search of fame and success. However, his goal was not acting, it was music. At 20 years old, Fred arrived in Los Angeles with his saxophone, hoping to make it big in the music world. Life in Hollywood, however, was tough. Fred worked a variety of odd jobs, including selling sheet music at a store near the famous Grauman's Chinese Theater, where his handprints would later be immortalized as a star. Despite his best efforts, his music career didn't take off. In an attempt to make ends meet, Fred enrolled in night classes to become a newspaper cartoonist. But this path didn't lead to much either. Still, Fred's creative spirit and determination were evident. He wasn't one to give up easily, and when one door closed, he found another one to knock on. The big break, from music to acting. Fred's break into the world of acting came unexpectedly. While playing in a band called the California Collegians, Fred's good looks and natural charisma caught the attention of a talent scout. The scout, however, was not impressed by Fred's musical abilities, but by his on-screen presence. Fred was given a screen test by Paramount Pictures, which would open the door to acting. He started with small, uncredited roles in films, with his first being in the 1929 film Girls Gone Wild. These early roles provided Fred with valuable experience and a glimpse into the world of filmmaking, even if they weren't glamorous. In 1935, Fred received his first credited movie role in Grand Old Girl, which was a small part but marked a significant step forward in his career. But it was his performance in The Gilded Lily that truly changed his life. Released on January 25, 1935, the film was a major success and catapulted Fred to stardom. He played Peter Dawes, a reporter entangled in a love triangle with Claudette Colbert's character, and a rich Englishman, played by Ray Milland. The film was a massive hit, grossing over $1.5 million, a huge success by the standards of the time. Critics praised Fred's performance, describing him as charming and natural, and the film opened doors to even bigger opportunities. Interestingly, Fred's success in The Gilded Lily almost didn't happen. The role was initially offered to Cary Grant, but due to a scheduling conflict, Grant was unable to take it. This fortunate twist allowed Fred to step into the role and seize the opportunity that would forever change his career. Just a week after The Gilded Lily was released, Paramount Pictures signed Fred to a 7-year contract, which marked the beginning of his rise to the top of Hollywood's A-list. Starting at a modest salary of $350 a week, Fred's pay increased steadily, and by the early 1940s, he was one of the highest-paid stars in Hollywood. The rise to fame, romantic comedies, and stardom. After The Gilded Lily, Fred's career skyrocketed, and he quickly became one of the most popular actors in Hollywood. Known for his friendly, approachable personality, Fred excelled in romantic comedies, a genre that showcased his natural charm and comedic timing. In 1935 alone, Fred starred in 7 films, including Hands Across the Table, released on October 18, 1935, which was a big hit. The film grossed over $1.3 million, cementing Fred's status as a rising star in Hollywood. By 1936, Fred was making $4,000 a week, which would be equivalent to about $75,000 a week today. He became a fan favorite, receiving around 1,000 fan letters each week. Despite his success, Fred's journey in romantic comedies wasn't without its challenges. One of his co-stars, the renowned actress Carole Lombard, had to help him loosen up on set. Known for her quick wit and comedic timing, Carol took it upon herself to help Fred embrace the humor of the genre. One of her more memorable moments on set involved her sitting on Fred's chest and joking, "You better be funny, or I'll pluck your eyebrows." Fred took her advice to heart and worked hard to improve his comedic skills, a decision that would benefit his career in the long run. Fred and Carole Lombard made several films together, including The Princess Comes Across, 1936, Swing High, Swing Low, 1937, and True Confession, 1937. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable, and each of their films was a hit. Swing High, Swing Low became the most successful Paramount film of 1937, grossing $1.9 million. By the time their final film together, True Confession, was released in 1937, Fred had become a master of romantic comedy, able to keep up with Carole's rapid-fire humor. A Personal Life in Hollywood, Marriage and Family. Despite their on-screen chemistry, Fred and Carole were never romantically involved off-screen. It was Carole who introduced Fred to his first wife, Lillian Lamont, at a party in 1936. Fred and Lillian married on June 20, 1936, and stayed together until Lillian's death in 1953. Fred's personal life was marked by his devotion to his family, and his marriage to Lillian was a significant part of his story. However, as we would later learn, Fred's off-screen persona was far different from the family-friendly image he had cultivated on screen. The turning point: Double Indemnity and the dark role that changed his career. In the early 1940s, Fred's career took an unexpected turn with his role in Double Indemnity, a film that would forever change his image. At the time, Fred was known for his roles in light comedies and musicals, and he was one of Paramount's top male stars. His most recent film, Standing Room Only, 1944, had been a major hit, but when director Billy Wilder approached Fred about playing the role of Walter Neff, an insurance salesman who becomes embroiled in a murder plot, Fred was initially resistant. He felt that taking on such a dark, morally ambiguous character would ruin his career. The strict Hollywood rules at the time dictated that criminals on screen had to be punished, and Fred feared audiences would reject him in such a role. Despite his doubts, Wilder was determined to cast Fred. The director spent weeks trying to convince Fred to take the role, even going so far as to follow him around town and corner him in various locations. Wilder was convinced that Fred's nice guy image would make his portrayal of a criminal all the more shocking. After much persuasion, including a private screening of Wilder's previous film Five Graves to Cairo, Fred finally agreed to take the role. When Double Indemnity premiered on July 3, 1944, audiences were stunned by Fred's performance. Critics were equally impressed, with the New York Times calling it a revelation. Variety praised his ability to make the character of Walter Neff, charming yet corrupt, feel disturbingly ordinary. The film became a massive success, grossing $5.7 million at the box office and receiving 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. While Fred was not nominated for an Oscar, his performance in Double Indemnity became the film's standout, and even James M. Cain, who wrote the original novel, praised Fred's portrayal as terrific and memorable. Rising to fame and image as the nice guy, Fred MacMurray's early career was built on his portrayal of the charming, likable man, the quintessential good guy. Audiences adored him in romantic comedies, especially his collaborations with Carole Lombard, who helped Fred loosen up on set and improve his comedic timing. He starred in several hits, including Hands Across the Table, 1935, Swing High, Swing Low, 1937, and True Confession, 1937, which were popular both with critics and audiences. Fred's chemistry with Lombard, in particular, was celebrated, and the two worked together in 4 films, each of which was a commercial success. In addition to his film roles, Fred's personal life seemed to align with the wholesome image he projected on screen. He married actress Lillian Lamont in 1936, and the couple remained together until Lillian's death in 1953. Throughout their marriage, Fred maintained the persona of the devoted family man, further solidifying his status as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. But while Fred's public image was one of warmth and kindness, his on-set behavior told a very different story. As his fame grew, so did his frustrations with the expectations placed upon him. He was increasingly typecast in roles that fit his clean-cut persona. And by the early 1940s, he was beginning to feel the weight of being Hollywood's nice guy. The transformation from nice guy to villain. Fred MacMurray's career took a dramatic turn when he was cast in Double Indemnity, 1944, a film noir directed by Billy Wilder. At first, Fred resisted the role, believing it would ruin his career. He was known for his light-hearted, charming characters and the idea of playing a morally ambiguous insurance salesman who conspires to murder a man for money was a significant departure. MacMurray was hesitant, especially because, at the time, there were strict rules in Hollywood films that required criminals to face punishment. He feared that audiences might reject him if he played such a dark character. Director Billy Wilder, however, was determined to cast Fred, believing that his wholesome image would make the role even more shocking. Wilder spent 6 weeks trying to convince Fred to take the part, even approaching other actors, including James Cagney and Gregory Peck, to no avail. It was only after a private screening of Wilder's previous film, 5 Graves to Cairo, that Fred was convinced to take on the role of Walter Neff in Double Indemnity. When the film was released in 1944, Fred's transformation stunned audiences. His portrayal of Walter Neff, a charming yet ruthless character, was a revelation. Critics praised his performance, with the New York Times calling it a revelation, and Variety noting that he made evil seem disturbingly ordinary. Despite not receiving an Oscar nomination, Fred's performance became the standout of the film, which went on to become a massive hit, grossing $5.7 million and receiving 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. MacMurray's willingness to embrace such a dark role allowed him to break free from his typecasting as the good guy, and it opened doors for him to play more complex and morally ambiguous characters. Over the next few years, he appeared in several more film noirs, including Murder, He Says, 1945, and Pushover, 1954. While some fans were shocked by the shift in his image, others applauded his newfound depth as an actor. As a result, Fred's salary increased, and he gained more creative control over his career. Shifting gears from noir to family films. By the late 1940s, Fred was tired of being stuck in the same kinds of roles. In 1949, he signed a contract with Universal Pictures, hoping to diversify his career. While he continued to appear in films, including the Western Never a Dull Moment, 1950, and the adventure film Fair Wind to Java, 1953, his efforts to explore new genres met with mixed reviews. However, Fred's next major success came in 1954 with his role in the Caine Mutiny. He played Lieutenant Tom Kiefer, a manipulative officer who helps incite a mutiny on a U.S. Navy ship. His performance was a standout in the film, which also starred Humphrey Bogart and made over $21 million worldwide. Critics praised Fred for his ability to play a character who was both cold and calculating, showing that he was capable of playing more complex and morally gray characters. In 1960, Fred MacMurray took on another major career shift by starring in the comedy drama The Apartment, 1960, directed by Billy Wilder. Fred played Jeff Sheldrake, a married man who uses his position to have an affair with his secretary. It was a stark departure from his usual roles, and audiences were stunned by Fred's cold, heartless portrayal. The apartment went on to win 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and further solidified Fred's ability to take on darker, more complex roles. The Disney era, a new image. In the late 1950s, Fred MacMurray made another dramatic change in his career by joining the Disney family. On March 19, 1959, Disney released The Shaggy Dog, a family comedy in which Fred played a father, dealing with his son's transformation into a magical sheepdog. The film was a surprise hit, outgrossing some of the year's biggest releases. This success led to a string of Disney films including The Absent-Minded Professor, 1961, where Fred played a quirky inventor who creates a substance that defies gravity. The film was another hit, and its sequel, Son of Flubber, 1963, was just as successful. Fred went on to star in other Disney films, including Bon Voyage, 1962, and Follow Me, Boys, 1966, the latter being the last film that Walt Disney personally worked on before his death. Fred's films with Disney helped redefine his image, showcasing his ability to entertain families and play lovable, quirky characters. He became a fixture in the Disney repertoire, earning a place as one of the most recognizable faces in family entertainment. Television stardom, My 3 Sons. Fred MacMurray's television career began in 1960 with the sitcom My 3 Sons. The show, which centered on a widowed father raising 3 boys with the help of his father-in-law, was one of the first TV shows to focus on a single father. Despite his reservations about committing to a long-running TV show, Fred created a unique arrangement with the producers known as the MacMurray Method. This allowed him to work only 65 days a year, spread over 2 blocks of filming, which provided him with ample time for his personal pursuits, particularly his love of golf. My 3 Sons became a massive success, running for 12 seasons and making Fred a household name for a new generation of viewers. However, the unconventional filming schedule presented challenges for the rest of the cast and crew. The production team had to work around Fred's limited availability, filming all of his scenes for an entire season in just 2 blocks of time. While this approach allowed Fred to maintain his star status and keep a low profile between seasons, it also created tensions on set. Cast members, particularly younger actors, had to adjust to the irregular schedule, and many felt disconnected from Fred, whom they only saw intermittently. The tensions behind the scenes. Despite his star power, Fred MacMurray's off-screen behavior was often controversial and problematic. He was known for his volatile relationships with fellow actors and directors, which occasionally led to conflicts on set. One of the most notable instances of this occurred during the filming of Double Indemnity, where Fred and his co-star, Barbara Stanwyck, had a tense and difficult working relationship. Their on-set disagreements were so severe that Fred walked off the set at one point, delaying filming for hours. Fred also had a difficult relationship with the apartment director Billy Wilder, with whom he had several disagreements over his character. Fred's resistance to playing a cold, unlikable character led to tense arguments, but Wilder later admitted that Fred's reluctance actually made his portrayal more interesting and complex. Fred's behavior on set was also marked by an unwillingness to work with certain actors, including a notorious incident during the filming of The Egg and I, 1947, when Fred argued with Claudette Colbert over who would receive top billing. The studio had to intervene and agree to give them equal billing after Fred threatened to walk off the project. The shocking allegations and final years. Later in life, Fred MacMurray's behavior would be subject to more serious allegations. In her 2005 memoir, actress Polly Bergen claimed that Fred made unwanted advances toward her while they were filming Kisses for My President, 1964. According to Bergen, when she rejected his advances, Fred became cold and distant. These allegations cast a shadow over MacMurray's otherwise polished image, providing a darker glimpse into his personal life. Fred MacMurray's career was defined by his adaptability and his ability to reinvent himself, yet it was also marked by a series of off-screen controversies that contradicted his on-screen persona. Despite his early success and lasting impact on Hollywood, the complexities of his personal life and the tensions that marked many of his professional relationships remain an essential part of his legacy.